ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। Brahmaraji, you want me to read the, yeah, let's read few shlokas. ॐ श्री कृष्ण परमात्मने नमः। अथ पञ्चमोऽध्यायः ज्ञानसंन्यासयोगः। सन्न्यासं कर्मणां कृष्ण पुनर्योगं च शंससि यच्छ्रेय एतयोरेकं तन्मे ब्रूहि सुनिश्चितम्। श्रीभगवानुवाच सन्न्यासः कर्मयोगश्च निःश्रेयसकरावुभौ तयोस्तु कर्मसन्न्यासात् कर्मयोगो विशिष्यते। ज्ञेयः स नित्यसन्न्यासी यो न द्वेष्टि न काङ्क्षति निर्द्वन्द्वो हि महाबाहो सुखं बन्धात् प्रमुच्यते। सांख्ययोगौ पृथक् बालाः प्रवदन्ति न पण्डिताः एकमप्यास्थितः सम्यगुभयोर्विन्दते फलम् यत्साङ्ख्यै प्राप्यते स्थानं तद्योगैरपि गम्यते। एकं साङ्ख्यं च योगं च यः पश्यति स पश्यति सन्न्यासस्तु महाबाहो दुःखमाप्नु दुःखमाप्तुमयोगतः योगयुक्तो मुनिर्ब्रह्म न चिरेणाधिगच्छति योगयुक्तो विशुद्धात्मा विजितात्मा जितेन्द्रियः सर्वभूतात्मभूतात्मा कुर्वन्नपि न लिप्यते नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति युक्तो मन्येत तत्त्ववित् पश्यन् शृण्वन् स्पृशन् जिघ्रन् अश्नन् गच्छन् स्वपन् श्वसन् प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृह्णन् उन्मिषन् निमिषन्नपि इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन् ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा करोति यः लिप्यतेन स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसा कायेन मनसा बुद्धया केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति सङ्गं त्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये युक्तः कर्मफलं त्यक्त्वा शान्तिमाप्नोति नैष्ठिकीम् अयुक्तः कामकारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते सर्वकर्माणि मनसा सन्न्यस्यास्ते सुखं वशी नवद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन्न कारयन् न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते नादत्ते कस्यचित् पापं न चैव सुकृतं विभुः अज्ञानेनावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानं येषां नाशितमात्मनः तेषामादित्यवत् ज्ञानं प्रकाशयति तत्परम् तद्बुद्धयः तदात्मानः तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः विद्याविनयसम्पन्ने ब्राह्मणे गविहस्तिनि शुनि चैव श्वपाके च पण्डिताः समदर्शिनः इहैव तैर्जितः सर्गो येषां साम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्माद् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः न प्रहस्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोद्विजेत् प्राप्य चाप्रियम् स्थिरबुद्धिरसम्मूढो ब्रह्मविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः बाह्यस्पर्शे ससक्तात्मा विन्दत्यात्मनि यत् सुखम् स ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखम् अक्षयमश्नुते ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगाः दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः. Just give me 2 minutes for the meaning.
I will read the meaning, Bella. Don't worry.
Yeah, I will share the screen.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I can read Brahmaraji if you.
Okay, go
join
ahead
me.
and read. Yeah, you can
let
go
me-
ahead and read. Yeah.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, you praise renunciation of actions and also Karma Yoga. Tell me definitely which one of these two is better. I hope the screen is visible, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Shri Bhagavan said, both renunciation of action and performance of action as yoga lead to liberation. But of these two, the performance of action as yoga is better than renunciation of action. The person who neither hates anything nor longs for anything should be known as a renunciate, O Arjuna, because one who is free from the opposites, likes and dislikes, is effortlessly released from bondage. Children, those who do not know, but not the wise, argue that knowledge and karma yoga are different. The person who follows even one of the two properly gains the result of both. The end, moksha, that is gained by the sannyasis, is also reached by the karma yogis. The one who sees knowledge and karma yoga as one, that person alone sees the truth. Renunciation of action, O Arjuna, is difficult to accomplish without karma yoga. Whereas one who is capable of reasoning, who is committed to a life of karma yoga, gains Brahman quickly. One whose mind is purified by being committed to a life of karma yoga, who has mastered the body and has the sense organs under control, and who knows oneself to be the self in all beings, such a person is not affected even while doing actions. The one who is together, who knows the truth, thinks, I do not do anything at all, even while seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, walking, sleeping, breathing, talking, releasing, grasping, opening and closing the eyes, the person knowing full well that the organs are engaged in their objects. The one who performs actions, giving up attachment, offering one's actions unto Brahman is not affected by sin, just as the leaf of a lotus is not wetted by water. Giving up attachment, karma yogis perform action purely, without attachment, with the body, mind, intellect, and also by the senses for the purification of the mind. The one who is endowed with karma yoga, giving up the result of action, gains a composure born of a commitment to a life of karma yoga. Whereas one who is not committed to a life of karma yoga, led by desire, is bound, being attached to the result of action. The indweller of the physical body, the one who is self controlled, having renounced all actions mentally by knowledge, remains happily in the nine gated city, the body, neither performing action nor causing others to act. Atma creates neither doership nor action for any person nor the connection with the results of action. I read again. Atma creates neither doership nor action for any person nor the connection with the results of action. But one's own nature leads to action. The Atma accepts neither the Papa nor the Punya of anyone. Knowledge is covered by ignorance, and because of that ignorance, people are deluded. Whereas for those whose ignorance of the self is destroyed by knowledge, the knowledge reveals the self as that Brahman, like the sun reveals objects previously covered in the darkness. Those whose intellect is awake to that Brahman, for whom the self is that Brahman, who are committed only to that Brahman, for whom the ultimate end is that Brahman, which they have already accomplished, whose impurities have been destroyed by knowledge, they attain a state from which there is no return. Wise people are indeed those who see the same Brahman in a Brahmana, who is endowed with knowledge and humility, in a cow, in an elephant, in a dog, and even in a dog eater. The cycle of birth and death, samsara, is won over by those whose mind is rooted in the same that is Brahman here itself in this life. Since Brahman, that is free from any defect, is always the same, they, the wise people, abide in Brahman. The one who knows Brahman, who is established in Brahman, whose knowledge is firm and who is free from delusion, does not rejoice over gaining that which is desirable and does not resent gaining that which is undesirable. The one whose mind is not attached to the external sense objects that contact the sense organs gains that happiness, fullness which is in oneself. One whose mind is endowed with the knowledge of Brahman gains that happiness that does not wax and wane. Because those enjoyments that are born of contact between the sense organs and desirable objects are the sources of pain alone and have a beginning and an end. O son of Kunti, the wise person does not revel in them. I think we completed till 22nd, right?
Shall I share the screen and read? Or
Yes,
anybody?
Dr. Mara, if
Okay.
you are free, I can share and someone can read also.
No, it's okay.
Uh,
I'll if you want to stop this thing and
I will stop. Yeah, because okay. Yeah,
okay. Thanks.
yeah. Thank you so much. Dhanyavad.
No problem. Can you see the screen okay?
Yes, yes, Dr. Mara.
Okay. So we are supposed to read the chapter number 22, right?
Yes, yes.
Hmm. I think she read this 21 already.
Yeah,
But
21. Yeah.
do the Manana on this, or we did
Yeah,
some more.
if you want to read the highlights or just headlines or like
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
we can do like that, Dr. Mara.
Okay. Oh yeah, we did this already.
Yeah, yeah, you can go ahead with meaning, and because shloka I already read.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Mind is not attached to the external sense objects that contact the sense organs gains that happiness, fullness, which is in oneself. One whose mind is endowed with the knowledge of Brahman gains that happiness that does not wax and wane. So here, this particular paragraph, I'll read it. This verse can be interpreted in two ways. The first, we will see how Shankara explains it. Then we will see the other interpretation. Bahya Sparsa refers to the refers to external objects that come into contact with the sense organs. So Bhagya Sparsa is the external objects come into contact with the sense organs. This compound is resolved by Shankara's Bhagyascha Te Sparshacha, meaning that are external, bahyas, and they come into contact with the sense organs, sparshas. Generally, sparsha is used only in the sense of touch, that which is experienced by the sense of touch is called sparsha. Extending this meaning, any object that a person comes in contact with is sparsha. All sense objects, sound, etc., sparshas that are, and they are external. Therefore, they are bahya sparshas. Sabda dayaha, sound, including all sounds, forms, touch, taste, and smell. And with reference to these external objects, bahya sparsheshu, the person is asakta asma. Asakta atma. So, with reference to external objects is bahya sparsheshu, the person is asakta atma, that is, his or her mind, the atma is uninvolved, asakta, with any of them. So here atma is meaning mind. The mind is not involved, asakta is uninvolved. So meaning that person's mind is not hooked by them. In other words, the fancies of mind do not bother the person. The one whose mind is not carried away by such fancies with reference to external sense objects is therefore described in this verse in two words, Bhagya Spatseshu Asakta Atma. So that was in the first line, right? Bhagya Spatseshu Asakta Atma. Vindyat Atmani Yat Sukham. So he gains the Sukham. So freedom from longing. So that again, how you can uh, you can be free, meaning from having the desires about the sense objects, right? So again, this paragraph explains that Shankara expresses this Bhagya Svarseshu Asaktatma as one who is free from longing with reference to the sense objects, as Visayeshu Priti Varjita, a person who does not miss the external objects, right? So he doesn't miss it. So that's the freedom from longing. This being so, the person gains that happiness that is in the Atma. Okay, this being so, the person gains the happiness that is in the Atma. Atmani yat sukham tat vindate. So, Atmani yat sukham tat vindate. So, that's a happiness. Atma here means Satchit Ananda Atma. So, here we have to, yesterday they pointed out like this, depending on the space where the Atma we read in context, we have to assume the meaning. This Atma here, Atmani Yatsukam Tatvindate. Atma here means Satchit Ananda Atma. So that's why the fullness, the happiness. Happiness, Sukha, has to be mentioned in this way because people generally think that objects themselves give them Sukha. But the wise person is also happy without objects being instrumental in any way. If a wise man is not elated by objects, how does he become happy? He is happy because all the happiness is within him, is with himself. Sukha is the very Swarupa, the very nature of Atma. Thus, the word Sukha really means fullness here. Fullness being Atma nature, Atma's nature. This Sukha, fullness, is gained by the Jnani who knows that the Atma is not affected by the external objects that come into contact with the sense organs. He or she gains the Sukha that obtains in the Atma, which is the person's Swarupa. So that's how the jnani is happy without having this external objects or sense objects fulfilling the, which is like temporary. I think it's better to read this one time so that whoever missed it yesterday, they can have a better understanding. And how do we know that the person being discussed here is wise? The next line points this out along with the context provided by the previous verse. The person is referred to as Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma. Brahma Yoga is the recognition of Atma as being Brahman. Brahma Yoga is the recognition of Atma being Brahman. This recognition itself is the yoga. Yukta in this compound means endowed with. Thus, one endowed with the knowledge of Brahman is Brahma Yoga Yukta. And the one whose mind is endowed with or resolved in the knowledge of Brahman is Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma. Atma meaning the mind, Antakarana here. This then is the person who gains the happiness, that is oneself. Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma Atmani Sukham Vindate. So he gains the Sukham within oneself. Relative and absolute Sukha. So we read about this, how you get the freedom from longing, and relative and absolute Sukha. So Jnani is being full that he doesn't long for other external objects. That's the whole idea why he is not looking for something else. But somebody who's like common man, that they have this ignorance, which is covering the Atma, the Swarupa, so of real nature, that you know longing for all these external objects, and they think that is the Sukha, and then all the other aspects of that coming along with that. Relative and absolute sukha is a question might now be asked: how much sukha is there in that atma? There only be a little bit of happiness, like the happiness one gets from eating ice cream. For example, such happiness comes, but it also goes. For a Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma is the kind of sukha that is there in the Atma, no, says Krishna. The sukha in the Atma is sukha that does not wane. Sukham akshayam ashnute. So what kind of sukha that they have in the Atma is that doesn't wax and wane. Sukham akshayam ashnute. There is a song, the theme of which is that if you give love away, it will grow. In other words, it does not get spent or die. Similarly, here the sukha in the Atma is a sukha that is not dependent upon any situation. Sukham akshayam, it is yourself, swarupa. This verse can also be looked at as a description of two different people by taking the two lines separately. The first line describes the karma yogi who is not carried away by fancies, bahya spatseshu aksakta atma. And the second line describes the jnani who is endowed with the knowledge of Brahman, Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma. If we look at the verse in this way, we see that there are two types of sukha mentioned here. A person who does not depend on any external object or situation for his or her happiness, whether he or she lives the lifestyle of a sannyasi or a karma yogi, has a certain attitude, a cheerfulness and contentment with whatever there is. And because of this attitude, the person gains a greater degree of sukha than a person who is entirely dependent upon the presence of desirables and the absence of undesirables. The later person's sukha is definitely going to be more short-lived when compared to the sukha of the person who is not dependent on situations. For example, you may like tofu, but it may not be served in the way you want it. You may like it as it is, and it may come to you fried. Therefore, there are comparable degrees of sukha that people get. All over the world, it is the same. Generally, people are dependent for their sukha upon desirable things. So that generally people are dependent on their sukha upon desirable things coming and undesirable things staying away. So here this relative and absolute sukha is explained here. How sannyasi or karma yogi, what kind of sukha they get is called relative sukha. And then this, but the jnani who gets absolute sukha. And then this, sorry. Yeah, and then this karmi who has, he only gets the sukha very short-lived upon desirable things, undesirable things staying away. So that is how the person who dwelling on this, not having to deal with karma yoga or sannyasi, general people. Sukha of maturity. Suppose, however, there is a person who, because of an inner maturity, is able to find a happiness, a cheerfulness in doing what he or she can do. Such a person definitely gains some sukha. Okay, let's talk about this. Suppose, however, there is a person who, because of inner maturity, is able to find happiness, cheerfulness in doing what he or she can do. Such a person definitely gains some sukha. Because of a prayerful attitude, the person picks up a sukha that is not totally dependent upon his or her ragadveshas. Instead, it depends upon the person's sense of satisfaction. This is the person who begins to discover that there are certain things that are to be done and enjoys doing them as an offering to the Lord, Ishvara Arpana Buddhaya. Because the person is courting the Lord, and so to speak, he or she will naturally discover a certain joy. And because of this love or cheerfulness that the person enjoys, he or she is not held by ragadveshas. The freer you are from your ragadveshas, the more you can enjoy small things. Even the stars will be enjoyable to you. There are many things in life you can enjoy without fulfilling your likes and dislikes. So there are many things in life you can enjoy without fulfilling your likes and dislikes. Thus, the person who is bahya sparseshu asaktatma gains sukha in the mind. Even if the person gives up something, he or she does not really miss it. And again, that is sukha. A sukha which is limited but definitely better than the sukha enjoyed by the person who is totally dependent on one's ragadveshas. The sukha of the person who is committed to ragadveshas is going to be very limited and is not going to be lasting. Whereas the one who is not in the hands of likes and dislikes, whether a karma yogi or a sannyasi, has certain disposition because which happiness is gained in oneself. Atmani Sukham Vintati. Here, Atmani should be taken as in oneself. That is one's mind, in one's mind. Now, what happens if the same person, the Bhagya Spatseshu, spots here, Bhagya Spatseshu Asaktatma becomes a Brahma Yoga Yuktatma. By withdrawing from the hold of likes and dislikes, the person definitely gains some sukha. But when this person becomes one with Brahman, when the person's mind is alive to the knowledge of Brahman, what sukha will the person gain? Such a person gains a sukha that does not wax or wane, the sukha that is the sarupa of oneself. We see in all of this then an order. For one whose mind is not attached to external objects, there is some sukha, not because of the objects, but because of the cheerfulness of the mind. This is due to antakarna shuddhi. And if such a person becomes a Brahma Yoga Yuktatma, the sukha gained will be one's very nature, unlimited and eternal. This is like us, like a little bit, right? That we are in this 1 hour class that we want to do, or with that Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, the one whose mind is not attached to any external objects, there is some sukha, not because of the object, but because of cheerfulness of the mind. This is due to antakarna shuddhi. Yeah, like that we have little things in our happen in our day-to-day life with that kind of happiness. And of course, if such a person is Brahma Yoga Yuktatma, the sukha gained will be one's very nature, unlimited and eternal. Okay. The significance of the context, thus this verse can also be seen as reflecting this order. If Shankara were here, I think he would agree with this later interpretation, given that it holds with what was said before and what was said later. whenever you interpret what is said differently from Shankara's interpretation, you must see that it is contextually proper. Otherwise, anyone who knows what it is all about can easily prove you wrong. If, however, having understood the context properly, you are able to see another meaning, one that does not go against anything that is said and fits better into the context, you can present it and the tradition will accept it. Shankara himself often views a verse in two or three different ways, a practice the tradition follows, provided, of course, that it facilitates understanding without hurting what the Shastra says grammatically, contextually, and logically, because the tradition thoroughly analyzes the Shastra before giving its meaning. Presenting any other meaning requires the utmost care and consideration in terms of what has been said before and what is said later. We shall see how this later interpretation is upheld as we proceed. So the later interpretation is about this, right?
Here again, Swamiji is again pointing out to those small pleasures in life and the real happiness, which is the happiness of our own Swarupa.
Right.
Purnatva, that completeness, that I don't need anything else to make myself happy. I am fine the way I am, the place where I am, the people with whom I am. That completeness when it is felt, and that will not, I mean, that will be like a nitya. It will not go away with the way other small pleasures which go away with our sense organs. It will not have that limited capacity like gulab jamun or anything which we eat. It will, the same gulab jamun will become poison after 5 6, right? You will not feel to have it more anymore. So it is because we followed the pleasure, that
That's
whether we have it or not, when we know that I am happy with it or without it.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that there are two ways they interpreted was, one is that bahya sparseshu asakta atma. So that you're not interested in those external objects through your senses, with the sense organs. They they their atma is Suddha, like Antakarna Shuddha. So, I mean, it's clear, and they enjoy that Atma's nature, like Satchit Ananda. So that's then they are full already. So there is no longing for these external objects. That's one way to interpret it. And then that kind of bias Parseshu Asakta Atma person, then he is endowed with this Brahma as he revels in in the knowledge of Brahman, and he becomes the Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma. So, so when he becomes a Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma, himself, this, that Atmani means here they represents Brahman. So there's oneself. So that one is
Yeah.
Swarupa.
Atmanaiva Atmana Truptah. He
Right.
is happy with himself.
And he gained that happiness. But the other interpretation was given here that, like you said, the small pleasures, which is like say, for example, you're not having to, like you are doing the prayer or puja without expecting anything, just to, you're chanting a sloka or whatever that you're doing, japa or meditation, all that gives you some happiness for a person without attached to any external objects, right? In that sense. Uh,
Yes.
and where the person is who is totally, but then when they come out of that activity, then they are into this based on their desires or undesirable thing that goes on. Then what happens again? They are not going to perceive that sukha as much. Like when they do the desirable, they get the sukha. When they see the undesirable, they get upset. So dukkha. So it alternates. But then the person who completely not longing for this external objects, when they are prepared, when the jnani or wise person, then he revels in that Brahman, who revels in the Brahman all the time. Their happiness is not going to wax and wane. Like that example given was the ice cream. When you eat the ice cream, you get the pleasure, taste, feel good. But then when you don't eat ice cream, it's not like that. It doesn't wax and wane. It doesn't reduce. So that is what was the second meaning was given, I think, right? I mean,
Yes,
very,
Dr. Mara, very well explained.
yeah. So
Mm.
one is to know that getting away from the external objects, um, and then the doing it with the karma yoga attitude, then you will gain some happiness. And then once you have the antakarna shuddhi, the knowledge happens. When the knowledge happens, they revel in that Brahman, the Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma. Then Atmani Sukham Vindate is like that Sukham is what do you call that? Akshayam Ashnute.
Akshaya. Right.
Akshayam doesn't wax and wane. So that's what this particular sloka shows. Anyone wants to say anything, or you want me to read any of that?
No, you've explained very beautifully. So, whatever karma yoga we do, whether it is like our sadhana practice, it is out of joy, not for the joy.
Right.
When you do, very beautifully, Brahmaraji always says, no, you do out of joy. When
Right.
you do for joy, then it can happen, it can begin and it can end at certain moment till you
Yeah,
are in that
like
position.
your duty, you have to do it. That's one thing. But then, even doing regular activities at home and doing everything for yourself and others, you doing with that joy would be more. It'd be better,
Hmm.
I think, right? Cheerful.
Yes.
That cheerfulness
Yeah,
is,
it includes everything, whether it is the same monotonous task of cleaning, cooking,
yeah.
or doing puja or japa, whatever you consider as your, when you do it with Ishwararpana Buddhi,
Mm,
and whatever you get, you accept as the prasada from the Lord, whatever you get, then I think you can have.
right. So how we come out of our own sukha and dukkha is we have to keep our mind cheerful.
Hmm.
And Suddha is one that is always there, but and apart from Antakarna Suddhi, we have to do everything with the cheerfulness. Then
Hmm.
uh, that will help our Atha Karma Siddhi also, I think. The Karma Yoga attitude. Every sloka you learn a teeny bit, little bit.
Yes, it is like
Yeah.
that protein shot.
Very nice. So I know if anyone wants to say anything, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll move on to this next sloka. So the latter interpretation is upheld as we proceed. You read the sloka already, Balaji, this one?
Yeah, I will read.
Read it again.
I read it when I read the chapter 5 or shloka till 23rd, 22nd. Yeah.
Okay.
ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः.
Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, he, because those which some sparsajaha, how do you say some sparsajaha are born of contact between the sense organs and desirable objects.
Yeah,
So,
samsparshajaha, correctly read you.
Sparshajaha are
Yeah.
born of contact between the sense organs and undesirable objects. Okay, it's not sense objects, it's desirable objects. Bohaga, enjoyments. They dukkha yonayaha eva. Dukkha yonayaha eva are the sources of pain alone. Adi antavantaha, and they have a beginning and end. So there is all this, a beginning and end. Buddha, the wise person, teshu in them, na ramate, does not revolve. Kaunteya, he, ye, some sparsajaha bohaha, te dukkha yonayaha eva, adi antavantaha, Buddha teshu na ramate. Because those enjoyments that are born of contact between the sense organs and desirable objects are the sources of pain alone and have a beginning and an end. O son of Kunti, the wise person does not revel in them. So I'll read this one more time. Because those enjoyments that are born of contact between the sense organs and the undesirable objects are the sources of pain alone and have a beginning and an end. O son of Kunti, the wise person does not revel in them. Both Bhagya Sparseshu Asaktatma and Brahma Yoga Yuktatma of the previous verse are again commented upon here. The objects contacted by the sense organs are called sansparshas. Sparsha meaning contact, as we have seen. Between the sense organs, indriyas, and the desirable object, ishta vishayas, there is contact, and because of that contact, there is sukha, are called bhoga here, meaning enjoyment, a pleasant experience. These pleasant experiences are born out of the sensory contact with the desirable sense objects. Sansparshajaha bhogaha. Krishna also says here that these enjoyments are the potential causes for sorrow, dukkha yonayaha. So they are also potential causes for sorrow, dukkha yonayaha. Yoni means womb. Therefore, enjoyments or pleasant experience born of the contact between the sense organs and desirable objects are the wombs or potential causes for the dukkha. Excuse me. I'll read that line again. Therefore, enjoyments or pleasant experience born of the contact between the sense organs and the undesirable objects are the wounds or potential causes for dukkha. They are sources of sorrow. Why? Because even before gaining these pleasant experiences, there is dukkha in that you have to work for them until you get them. To bring a desirable object or pleasant experience into alignment with the sense organs is not an easy thing. Okay. To bring a desirable object or a pleasant experience into alignment with the sense organ is not an easy thing. If you want to see an object that is away from you, you either have to take yourself to the object or bring the object to you. If it is a mountain, you have to go to the mountain. If it is something else, you may be able to bring it to yourself. Either way, you have to work for coming into contact with it. You either have to come in contact with the object or it has to come in contact with you. This contact has to take place, which itself implies a lot of effort on your part. And this is only the beginning. When the contact takes place, it must be proper, it must be desirable. The sight of a favorite dish may make you happy, but if when you put it on your tongue, it is too hot, there is a problem. The sight of it was one contact which was desirable, and the contact the food made with your tongue was another which was undesirable. Thus, to ensure that the contact is proper and desirable is not always easy. So, here is all that Bhagyaspar Seshu. Sorry, that some Parshaya, something like that. Parshajaha. Desirable experiences cannot last. How long the desirable contact can last is another problem. The process of experiencing an object itself may exhaust the object and then you will miss the contact, or you yourself may become tired and therefore unable to continue on contact. The attitude or the mood to enjoy also goes away and again you lose the contact. Whether due to change of mood, the sense organs becoming tired, or the object no longer being available, you always find that this kind of happiness is only temporary, if not momentary. And when it goes, it leaves you high and dry. It leaves you unhappy. Okay, I'll read this again a little bit slowly. Desirable experiences cannot last. How long the desirable contact can last is another problem. The process of experiencing an object itself may exhaust the object, and then you will miss the contact. Or you yourself may become tired and therefore unable to continue the contact. Okay, this line is a little bit, complicated. The process of experiencing an object itself may exhaust the object and then you will miss the contact, or you yourself may become tired and therefore unable to continue the contact. The attitude or the mood to enjoy also goes away and again you lose the contact. Whether due to change of mood and the sense organs becoming tired or the object no longer being available, you always find that this kind of happiness is only temporary, if not momentary. And when it goes, it leaves you high and dry. It leaves you unhappy. We see then that before gaining enjoyment, there is dukkha. So See, we see then that before gaining enjoyment, there is dukkha. And after you get them, you spend your time thinking, I'm going to lose this happiness. Finally, when they are over, there is more dukkha. Again, you have to work for them. All enjoyments are sources of sorrow, dukkha yonis. Yeah, all enjoyments are the sources of sorrow, dukkha yonis, because they have a beginning, adi, and an end, anta, because they are called adi, antavantaha in this verse. A desirable contact is the beginning. The end is when the desirable contact is no longer available. This means that these bhogas are all anitya, not lasting. They are non-eternal. The person who understands the limited nature of such enjoyments is called Buddha in this verse. Buddha means Viveki. Thus, Buddha can be taken either into mean a discriminative person or a wise person in his commentary. Wise person. In his commentary on this verse, Shankara defines Buddha in the later sense, meaning discriminative person or a wise person, one who understands the real nature, the truth of oneself, avagata paramartha tattvaha. Avagata paramartha tattvaha. That means a wise person. Wise person who understands the real nature. Because a Viveki understands the limitations of ordinary happiness, he or she goes after the happiness that does not wane, akshaya sukha. Which is why the person was called Bahya Spatseshu Asakta Atma, one who is not carried away by the mind's fancies for external objects. Because of a person's discrimination, he or she becomes Bahya Spatseshu Asakta Atma, and enjoying enjoying his natural cheerfulness. This person, the karma yogi, goes uh, about doing only what is to be done. So, enjoying a natural cheerfulness, this person, the karma yogi, goes about doing only what is to be done, not bound by anything. The karma yogi may enjoy certain objects, but he or she is not bothered by any of them. And this karma yogi, on becoming a Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma, one who is endowed with the knowledge of Atma as Brahman, Atma as Brahman, gains the happiness that does not wane. Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. I know, I wish it's only a couple of paragraphs. If you guys don't mind, let me just complete it. It's okay? I know. It's so interesting to finish it off. And then we'll repeat it again tomorrow. Giving oneself to one's desires. In his introduction to the next verse, Shankara points out that desire or longing for enjoyments is opposed to serious inquiry into oneself, an inquiry that requires a certain maturity. So he points out the desire or longing for enjoyments is opposed to serious inquiry into oneself, an inquiry that requires certain maturity. A person who wants to understand Atma, Brahman, the ultimate, and who at the same time wants to go to discourse will have no time for such an inquiry. First, the mind of such a person has to be fixed up, like me, but he or she will not have any time for that either. The person is acting out of the likes and dislikes in his or her mind and not dealing with them directly. So, the person is acting out of the likes and dislikes in his or her mind and not dealing with them directly. Only when you begin to deal with your raga dveshas do you become an inquirer and a serious person, a seeker. You may have 100 problems, but as long as you are ready to deal with them, there is no real problem at all. The person who deals with his or her problems already has a certain maturity, and the problems of such a person will resolve in time. But for the person who is given to the problems themselves, where is the chance for him or her to deal with them? Giving oneself to the desires, one's desires is the real problem. And as Shankara says, is opposed to the pursuit of liberation, moksha, kamaga marga pratipakshi. So, kamaga marga pratipakshi. This problem then is the one that is the most difficult to deal with. Being controlled by one's desires, kamas, is considered to be the most difficult problem. Shankara continues, because it becomes the cause for that which you do not want, dukkha, in all of its many forms. For example, if you lose your health due to the overindulgence of certain desires, you will also lose your money and variety of other things in the process. Or losing your money, you may lose your health. And these karmas in the form of ragadveshas are not easy to eliminate. Durnivara. In other words, they are difficult to get in hand. Therefore, extra effort is required in order to bring about an antidote for karma, as Krishna infers in the next verse. Okay, so I took 3 minutes more. I think this had to be repeated for sure. And it's very nice to continue with that, how we are to control our desires. We saw that in many, many verses before. So the sukha that you want to get is from the desirable objects. The happiness you want to get from the desirable objects that can lead to the birth of dukkha. It's a womb for the dukkha. So how giving oneself to the desires is how we have to begin to deal with raga dveshas. If you are a serious inquirer or seeker. We saw that in many, many places, but every time they repeat this word raga dveshas, something else new that how you have to, why it has to be done. Anyway, thank you. And you want to say the sloka, ending sloka, and that other thing?
Yes, Dr. Mara.
Thank
Thank
you
you so much for a beautiful summary also. We can repeat this as you said that every time it is a new angle with which Swamiji
Yeah,
talks about.
points, right? We have
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
notes actually. That's the only way we can keep track of it.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so. Yeah. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ तत्सत् सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु जय गुरुदेव एकमेव द्वितीयं ये ब्रह्म निर्गुणं निश्चलं निर्विकारम् एकमेव द्वितीयं ये ब्रह्म अत्र वेदान्तमेव प्रमाणम् बोधक सद्गुरु तत्त्वनिष्ठः ईश्वरानुगृहीतेन वेद्यम् एकमेव द्वितीयं ये ब्रह्म ज्ञानगम्यं तुरीयं रतस्थम् आत्मरूपं हि तत् येन ज्ञातम् सोऽध्वनः पारमाप्नोति सत्यम् एकमेव द्वितीयं ये ब्रह्म ब्रह्मज्ञस्य तु ब्रह्मैव सर्वम् नास्ति मोहो भयं नैव दुःखम् तस्य स्वानन्दमग्नं हि चित्तम् एकमेव द्वितीयं ये ब्रह्म निर्गुणं निश्चलं निर्विकारम् एकमेव द्वितीयं ये ब्रह्म एकमेव द्वितीयं ये ब्रह्म ब्रह्मैव सत्यम्
So beautiful. Thank you so much. Jai Gurudev. We'll see you tomorrow.